So the liver gallbladder flush, I've heard that it can be unsafe in case a gallbladder gets lodged, but what are your thoughts on that part?
Yeah. So I think it's really important if you are going to do a liver gallbladder flush that you need to do it with a doctor who's watching you. So what I often do in my protocol is, so the protocol is actually 4 steps. Step one, so I say that you have a funnel, and if you have eczema, this funnel is getting really full. Now, what fills this funnel? So what is the funnel? First of all, the funnel is really your liver, your gallbladder, and all of your detox pathways. And then what fills it are toxins, fat, and hormones. So if you have eczema, eczema is really the first sign that this funnel is full, because what will happen is the toxins are trying to go through and they can't go through. So instead of going through, they're going to circulate around. And where are they going to try to go out is your first supplemental filter, which is your skin. Your skin is the largest organ, and it kind of helps out if your kidneys and your colon are not working well to release those toxins out. So step one is really, we have to remove all of these things that are filling the funnel. So that could be mercury, lead, foods, you could be, all your whole environment could be surrounded with toxins. And so in the first part of my program, we really try to eliminate all those things. And that's really step one. So the flush is really the grand finale. And when people try to do it without doing all the steps, then there can be problems. So step one would be remove all of that. Now, step two is really understanding if there's a lot of stress. Stress plays a really big role in making that funnel small. And so I always, with all of my patients, I deal with stress and emotional traumas and trap traumas. So I talked about this on Dr. G's podcast too, is for me, there was a lot of emotional trauma that was coming out as eczema. And, like in Chinese medicine, they say like when it's very hot and like you have eczema, there's a lot of anger and heat inside, right? And anytime I would get irritable or stressed, my eczema would flare. And so that's another thing that we really need to look at is the stress. So with my patients, I'm always dealing with looking at their emotional state, their traumas, etc. So that's number two. Number three is genetics. And most of us who have eczema, we have some issues with our genetics, right? And you can kind of see it in your family. Like my family has all asthma and like eczema. I don't know if your family has
My
similar.
dad has it.
Yeah.
He had
Yeah.
it before.
Yeah. So like you'll see in your family line, there's like asthma, eczema, there might be autoimmune disease, gastrointestinal problems. And then you'll see, okay, so genetically, maybe our funnel doesn't work as well as we want it to because we're predisposed for this funnel not to work as well. And then finally, we get to right before the flush, which is the exits. And in eczema cases and in mine, my kidneys and my gut were not working well. So every morning I would wake up and I would have to go pee. Like it was like, oh my gosh, like even my back would be have a dull ache. And I actually had kidney stones that I didn't really know about. And that was causing my filtration of my kidney not to work well. And so it was backing up all my toxins. And I find this really commonly in eczema patients, that the kidneys are just kind of operating a little bit lower than we want them to. And your doctor isn't going to find this because I didn't really have that many symptoms. I just really had to pee in the morning. That was really it. But then when you looked at my filtration rate in your labs, it's called an EGFR. When you looked at my filtration rate, it was a little lower than it should have been. So I like the filtration rate to be over 90. And in conventional medicine, they only care about it when it's below 60. So again, in conventional medicine, they're really only looking for disease. And I'm looking for like optimizing all these things, right? So my kidneys weren't working well. And then my gut definitely wasn't working well. I was like constipated. I was always bloated. I was always having like stomach issues and all that. So then we have to make sure the kidneys and the gut are working well. And then lastly, we then need to flush this funnel as step 4 is really the grand finale. And before doing that, we really have to start breaking up those stones, breaking up the bile that's been congested there for so long. And we need to do some things to do that. So doing a flush without doing 1, 2, and 3, and then also breaking up the bile is going to result in probably symptoms like throwing up. And what you'll see if you search liver gallbladder flush online is you're going to see people like, oh my God, this is the worst procedure ever. I threw up and like, I felt so sick. And it is kind of dangerous to do it that way. And so when in my protocol, we really have to kind of check off all the boxes of 1, 2, 3, and then finally we get to the liver gallbladder flush.
Awesome. I'm glad that you're doing it in a safer way too, because I know a lot of people try to do it themselves and there is that risk. So it's good that you explained beforehand that you tackle all the other steps before you get to the final one, which is the flush.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think people like will find a book or find it online. They're like, oh my gosh, I want to do it. And I think at the point when I found it in my research, I had already done steps 1 through 3. And so I was like ready to go. But a lot of patients aren't ready to go. A lot of patients need to get through one through 3 in order to be ready for the flush. And once you hit the flush, then we know you're almost there. You're like 75% of the way there, and then you just have like 25% to go. And that's really what the flush is, kind of clearing the last part of it so that now your funnel can work well. And if your funnel works well, then you really should have no symptoms. Like I have 0 symptoms now. I really don't take supplements, to be quite honest.
Wow, that's
Only if
amazing.
I'm like going to get sick, or like right now to protect my immune system from COVID or things like that. But you really should be able to just live a healthy life, and your funnel kind of moves well.
That's so cool. I love that. Thank you for sharing that.